Hey everyone, so today we're going to talk about something that touches millions of lives, usually behind the scenes. I'm talking about unpaid family caregivers. You know, the spouses, the kids, the friends who are really the backbone of our entire long-term care system. And we're going to zero in on the one thing they ask for more than anything else, this lifeline called respite care.
All right, so here's our game plan. First up, we'll look at this huge unseen workforce. Then we'll get into what respite care actually is and how it's supposed to work. After that, we'll tackle the big question, why is it so hard to get a break? And we'll wrap up by looking at where respite care is headed. Sound good? Let's go. Okay, first things first. To really get why this is such a big deal, you have to understand the scale we're talking about. This isn't some small group of people. It's a massive, unpaid, and totally essential workforce. And honestly, they're under a ton of pressure. Okay, look at this number, 53 million. Just let that sink in. We're talking about 1 out of every 5 adults in the US. 1 in 5. They're providing long-term care for a loved one, someone who's aging or has a disability or chronic illness. So yeah, this isn't some fringe issue. This is a reality for a massive part of our country. And get this, it's not just helping out for a few hours. The average is 24 hours of direct care every single week. That's basically a part-time job. And it's on top of their actual job, their own families, their own lives. And it often goes on for years and years. So what's all that time and effort worth in dollars and cents? Well, the estimates are staggering. We're talking nearly $500 billion a year. To give you some perspective, that is more than the entire federal government spends on long-term care. It's like this invisible economic engine holding the whole system together. Okay, so with that kind of responsibility, it's pretty obvious that these caregivers need some support, right? And the number one thing they ask for, the most requested service, is something called respite care. So, what exactly is it? Yeah, at its heart, respite care is super simple. It's about giving the caregiver a break. That's it. It can be planned, it can be for an emergency, but the whole point is to provide some temporary relief from what is often a relentless 24/7 job. It's a chance to just breathe, to recharge the batteries and come back ready to go again. And you know, the Alzheimer's Association just nails it with this quote. It's so simple, but so true. Everyone needs a break. This isn't a luxury item or a nice to have. It's a fundamental human need. And when you're carrying that kind of weight, it's absolutely essential for your own survival. And the ripple effects of getting that break are huge. And it's not just for the caregiver, it's a win-win. Of course, it cuts down on that intense stress and burnout, but it also, and this is key, it lowers the risk that the person being cared for ends up in the hospital. It can even delay the need to move into a nursing home. It's kind of like preventative care for the whole family. Okay, so here's the thing. Respite care isn't one size fits all. It's not this single rigid thing. It's actually a super flexible idea that can look a lot of different ways depending on what a family really needs. So let's check out what some of those options are. You can basically break it down into 2 big buckets. First, you've got informal respite. This is your circle, right? Friends, family, neighbors who step in to lend a hand. And a lot of people prefer this because it's all built on relationships and trust. Then you have formal respite. This is the more structured stuff with professional agencies, day centers, that kind of thing. Diving into that formal care bucket, there are really 3 main ways it works. First is in-home care, where a professional comes right to the house. This is awesome for keeping things familiar and comfortable. Then there are adult day centers. Think of these as safe, structured programs with activities, great for social interaction. And finally, you have residential stays. This is for short-term overnight care in a facility, which is a total game changer for a vacation or if there's an emergency. All right, so if this stuff is so great and there are all these different options, why isn't every caregiver taking advantage of it? Well, this is where we get to the heart of the problem. Because for so many people, this lifeline is just completely out of reach. Get ready for this number. A whopping 85% of caregivers do not use any formal respite services. 85%. That means the huge majority of those 53 million people are doing it all pretty much on their own. So what gives? What's the disconnect? Well, the roadblocks are pretty huge. First, there's the cost. It's expensive, and a lot of it is out of pocket. Then there's just access. You've got long wait lists, or maybe there just aren't any providers nearby. And then you get into the emotional stuff. You worry, right? Will they provide good care? And there's this really powerful feeling of guilt, this idea that you should be able to handle it all yourself. But here's the cool part. You know how they say necessity is the mother of invention? Well, crisis can really spark creativity. And the huge challenges we've all faced recently, especially during the pandemic, kind of forced a total rethink of what respite could even look like. And it led to some really amazing, innovative ideas. Think about it. When the world shut down, all those respite options, both the formal services and the informal help from family, they basically disappeared overnight. As you can imagine, caregiver stress went through the roof. But that pressure also became a catalyst for change. It lit a fire under everyone to get creative and find brand new ways to deliver that break. And some really cool models started popping up. You had virtual respite programs using video calls to supervise and interact. There were these things called respite in a box, basically curated activity kits. But the biggest deal? Funding got way more flexible. So instead of a rigid, here's the service you get model, it shifted to, how can we help you solve your problem? Families could actually design their own support. And this new flexibility led to some genius solutions. I love this one example. A caregiver used her funds to buy a trampoline for her child who's on the autism spectrum. I mean, a trampoline isn't a respite service, right? But it gave her child hours of fun, engaging activity, which gave her a real, honest-to-goodness break. It's about meeting the actual need, not just ticking a box on a form. And this all circles back to that guilt factor we talked about. This quote from DailyCaring.com it reframes everything so perfectly. Taking time for yourself isn't selfish. It's not abandoning your loved one. It's actually an act of profound wisdom and love. It's what allows you to stay in the game and keep providing that amazing care for the long haul. So that's really the big question we're left with, isn't it? We see the massive need, we know how much this helps, and we've seen this incredible burst of creativity. So the challenge for all of us now is, how do we take all that innovation and build a system where this lifeline isn't a luxury, but a reality? Something that's truly accessible and affordable for every single one of those 53 million caregivers out there.
For today's explainer, we pulled from some great sources, including the Alzheimer's Association, the National Council on Aging, and DailyCaring.com. And Daily Caring actually asked us to share a message with you all. They said, "We hope you enjoyed this video from DailyCaring.com. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the Caregiver channel here on YouTube. They're brought to you by Daily Caring. And from us, thanks so much for tuning in.